toll from floods in KwaZulu-Natal has jumped to over 400, while at least 63 people are still missing. Thousands are homeless and schools and roads have been severely damaged. Search and rescue mission continues. Our reporter, Aviwe Mtila, is on the ground and he joins us now to give us an update. Aviwe, I'm just imagining how difficult it is for services and some relief to get to some of those communities because we still have roads that are damaged.
A lot of roads that are damaged, Maseko. It's been difficult to move ourselves to the locations that we've been going to as we try to check on the schools. In fact, so the roads have been severely damaged, and in fact that's what's being tackled by the government here. But thousands have been left without homes. It's the seventh day now since the flood swept through, and their biggest concern, among other things, is how their children will go to school, given that schools are opening. But of course, the issue of water, Maseko, continues to plague KwaZulu-Natal, as we've seen as we just snake through ourselves. Dozens of people with buckets in hand as they try to source water, waiting on the sides of the road. And the person that I'm going to speak to now is the Deputy Mayor of eThekwini, I beg your pardon, Philani Mvundla, who is responsible for the infrastructure. Thank you for joining us at ENC Mdomkulu. But what is it looking like with the water tankers? Which areas are you prioritizing? Because in Veram, for example, they say they haven't seen one water tanker.
Thank you for that. The problem we're starting to face now is that some people are really not appreciating how much we're going all out to try and assist. In Verulam, we've pushed quite a bit of trucks already. We are aware of that. The city had a fleet of 131 tankers. This morning we received another 19 from the Department of Water and Sanitation. So we are increasing the number of our water tankers. But we have to admit that we also had a problem to get enough water just to fill the very same tankers. But since this morning again, we've added more filling point, where they are filling the water. Yes, it's still difficult because even the very same trucks cannot just get everywhere. Right now where we are, we're going to look at the bridge that the people on the other side have been cut off from the mainland since this thing started. We're going to look at that to see what can we do to get the services across.
And when it comes to the infrastructure, I know today you've been moving to various places looking at the infrastructure. Are you able to quantify just how damaged the water and sanitation infrastructure is and how much it will cost to fix it and when it will be done by? Because the situation is quite dire.
Our engineers has already told us that 80% of our water works, our pump station are down. That means as well as water treatment plants. So basically, if it's 80% that is down, that tells you we are nowhere closer to number in terms of the figures. We are nowhere closer to that. But as the minister have said, as from tomorrow, we need to start getting things done. But to the number, we are still very far at this stage.
And I do assume that you're very far in terms of getting the infrastructure fixed, given the problem that you have now with these tankers crisscrossing and the people saying they don't have adequate water?
Well, when I say far, I mean in terms of is it 1 billion, is it 10 billion, is it 20 billion? We are nowhere closer to that to understand what it is. Remember, the market as well is only opening tomorrow. This has happened very close to the whole day. So basically, it's been a whole day. All the suppliers have been closed. But in as far as the tankers are concerned, we've increased the number. We are still increasing.
Okay, I just want to touch then on the schools that are opening tomorrow.
Yes.
Are you ready as eThekwini to open schools, given that some people are residing in those schools and given that a lot of the children that have been left destitute don't have anything?
I'm a very honest man. I'll tell you that we are not ready. Anyone that says ready, I would like to see how ready are we. The schools where I've been, where there are communities staying there, we haven't provided them an alternative accommodation. Therefore, we aren't ready. We are fully aware that our children need to be at school tomorrow. Therefore, something needs to be done very, very, very quick. How? We'll know by the time we reach the chalk this afternoon where everything is being planned. But the people that I have seen, they are still at the school. We haven't provided anything yet.
Okay, thank you very much. That's the Deputy Mayor of eThekwini, being quite honest and frank in terms of readiness of the schools opening tomorrow, mentioning that eThekwini is not ready, as many people that have been left destitute are residing in those various schools. No plans, we hear, but we've been actually moving ourselves to some other schools where we see that they'll be moved to community halls. In terms of the infrastructure and the water woes, we are told that 80% of the infrastructure is damaged as it stands. So no figures given in terms of how much it will cost to repair that infrastructure or when it will be repaired by. Quite dire situation here in eThekwini, Masego.
All right, senior reporter Avu Mdila, let's leave it there for now. Speaking of the schools, we're hearing that the DBE Minister, Angie Motshekga, will in fact be visiting KZN tomorrow to assess the damage there. We'll be speaking to a spokesperson, Elijah Mhlanga, on this show a little later on. Continuing with the flooding in KZN, let's go to ENC reporter Nqobile Madlala, who is also on the ground checking on services and restoration affected communities, and she joins us now. Nqobile, I don't know if you were privy to hearing that interview with Avu Mdila and the Deputy Mayor of eThekwini. He says he's aware of the issue in Verulam and they'll be sending water tankers there today. Are you seeing any difference so far in terms of water tankers from the government being sent to that community?
Well, Masego, a lot of areas have complained about the fact that they are not getting the water tankers, Verulam being one of the areas that we were just recently speaking to. But also, Gwandengezi was also saying the same thing, that even if they do get a sight of those trucks that are passing, they find that mostly it's because they're empty and they're coming from other parts of the area, and therefore they're not seeing any difference. As a result, they find themselves having to take some spring water as the water that they are currently using. But to bring in the head of water and sanitation, I want to bring in Ethnic Msweli, who would know best in terms of what is going on, because there is a constant worry from these communities saying that they need water, but they're not getting water. What is going on with the water tankers?
No, thank you so much. We have currently about 150 water tankers in total. That is about 100 from the city that we own, some that we've hired. And we must appreciate the support we've also received from Kokta in the province. They've given us some water tankers. In fact, various people have donated water tankers, so we do have a fleet. But with the storm damage that we have experienced, some of our own, in fact, a lot of our own infrastructure is damaged. The same infrastructure that is supposed to be taking water to the filling points. So what is the challenge that we are then facing is that you have tankers, you have trucks, but the filling points are a challenge, and that's what we are currently dealing with. We are creating more filling points. In fact, we have to triple the number that we had for our normal demand. So the bottleneck currently is that. But by tomorrow morning, because our teams are working, they're going to work throughout the night tonight to make sure that when we wake up tomorrow morning, we have these filling points.
And I mean, based on the statement that came out of eThekwini, there's quite a lot of areas that are still being affected by this water issue. Can you perhaps give us an idea in terms of those teams that you're saying are on the ground? How much of the infrastructure has been at this point sorted out?
The Minister of Water and Sanitation, Honorable Senzo Mtsuno, has established a war room, and that war room has been quite effective in managing the process of recovering these areas in terms of water supply. Just this morning we received a report through the war room that I would say on average about 60% of the areas have been recovered. So a lot of the areas are being recovered. The areas where there is delay in terms of recovering is where you require extensive work to be done in terms of infrastructure, where big infrastructure has been damaged. So in this case, the largest affected area is the southern area, because we have a pump station there which is called the South Coast Augmentation Pump Station. There we require serious work to recover that particular pump station. Unfortunately, that one installation, that one pump station, then affects a large area like the south, where you've got a lot of businesses. For example, Toyota is in the south, so they would be affected. But it's actually just one problem if you look at what it is we have to deal with. We are also working there around the clock. Our teams are there doing the necessary assessments. We had hoped to outsource that work because we didn't think we have the capacity to do it ourselves. But now, because all of that is taking so long, we are even looking at what we can do in-house, even if we don't restore it 100%. But our teams are going to go on site and see if there's anything we can do, even to recover just part of that capacity.
And when you talk about the fact that there are still places that are affected at this point, it's quite concerning because schools are supposed to be opening for tomorrow. Is there anything that you are doing to assist schools at this point, even if it means sending tankers to the school itself?
That was discussed also at length at this morning's war room. So we are going to touch base with the Department of Education and also use our own information that we have from our own records to determine which schools need assistance so that we then send water tankers. That will be the immediate response to make sure that there's water supply in those schools tomorrow. So we will then send water tankers to those schools. But we will continue to assess and work with the department because we might not pick up all of them tomorrow. But in the days that will come, we need to make sure that the schools have water. But the same would apply to businesses as well. We want to make sure and prioritize businesses, and we are also prioritizing hospitals, working with the Department of Kokta in the province.
And of course, some of the community members are talking about the fact that they're worried about storm drains and drainage at this point. That they're saying that some of the damages are caused by the fact that the water could not drain. Is there something that eThekwini will be doing to also look into this? And especially because there's also sewer that's currently running on the street in some of the areas, especially like Verulam.
Yes, all our teams throughout the municipality are hard at work. So the stormwater drains fall under our engineering unit. And there's a department they call Roads and Stormwater. They are very much on board. They are even part of that same war room I was talking about. So if there are any areas that the public is aware of where we need to respond quickly, they are on a call. They will go there as quickly as they are required to. But they themselves are proactively also going out and sorting out everything that they are aware of. They've been very helpful to us because in some of the areas, access in terms of road access was a challenge because we couldn't get there to fix water issues because the roads were damaged. They are on site. They are fixing those problems as we speak.
All right. Thank you very much. Ednick Msweli, there, head of water and sanitation in eThekwini. He says that they are working on trying to assist those schools, especially the ones that are going to be opening. They might be looking into sending water tankers as well as looking into some of these communities that are still finding issues with regards to water. He's talking about the fact that there's massive damage into the infrastructure. Of course, we've been hearing this, and he's saying that they are on sites trying to fix that.
All right, Mobile Madlala, let's leave it there.